All right, so official welcome everyone to our open house, Terra.do's open house for our Climate Change Learning for Action 12-week fellowship. My name is Tarah Foster, and I've had a really cool journey actually. So I'm currently the course director for the program for the fellowship. I also have the privilege of being an instructor as well, and you'll hear about what instructors do later on in this deck. But you know what? I started as a fellow. So I went through this program about a little over 3 years ago, and I always like to say I just loved it so much they couldn't get rid of me. So I stuck around. So today I'll be speaking to you for about 15 minutes, and then we're going to speak to some other alumni other than myself that have gone through the program and hear about the cool things that they're doing. You'll have an opportunity to ask questions, and then I'll move on with my deck that we'll get more into the details of kind of what a week in the life looks like. So we'll start with kind of a broad overview of what LFA has to offer, and then we'll get into the weeds a little bit. We'll take a deeper dive. I always like to tell people too at the beginning, we're such a community here. We love to see your wonderful faces. So if you are in a place to have your camera on, would absolutely love for you to have your camera on. It's always nice not to just speak into the Zoom void, but completely understand if you're not in a place to have on your camera, that is totally fine. But Paulo, I see you turned on your camera. Thank you so much. Hello. All right, so let's get started. Let's talk about Terra.do in general. So, I might be a bit biased, but I consider Terra.do truly to be the climate educator, the climate community, and the whole climate pathfinding experience for the entire world. And when I mean the entire world, I really mean it. We have global cohorts. We have graduated fellows from all around the world. I would bet you might be hard pressed to find a country where we might have not had a fellow come through. That's how confident I am. And it truly makes for a unique learning, pathfinding, and community experience. Our mission as an entire company is to get 100 million people to work directly on solving climate change by 2030. That time is approaching, right? So we really need to get on achieving our mission, and we have been doing that since 2020. LFA is our flagship program. So when you go to the Terra.do website, you're going to see that we offer a variety of learning opportunities for you. A lot of them are shorter courses, but Learning for Action, or as I call it, you might have noticed the shorthand LFA, Learning for Action is our flagship program. It's our 12-week program. It gives you a holistic picture of climate change. So just kind of a snapshot. Again, it's 12 weeks. We are currently in our 35th cohort. Super exciting. So, a cohort is just a group of fellows that starts at the same time. They're anywhere from, since I've been around, I think our largest cohort at one time was like close to 200 fellows at one time. I think our most intimate cohort was probably around 90 fellows that moved through the 12 weeks at the same time. So we're currently on our 35th cohort. Okay, so there's our number. We've had 90 plus countries represented by our fellows. And just from LFA alone, this is not including the other shorter courses that Terra.do offers, but just with LFA, we've had over 5,000 graduates of the program. So when I say it's a large and really strong community, I honestly mean it. As far as the 12-week learning journey goes, there's a few kind of basic components that you should know up front. So, a lot of the learning can be done asynchronously, meaning it's not live, right? So, we have very high quality learning modules that are released every week on Sunday. You'll be able to go through those classes at your own pace. And honestly, this is not just feedback I'm making up or like AI hallucinating something. Our fellows are always really impressed by the quality of our course modules. We work very hard to keep them up to date as climate science and politics, et cetera, evolve. There's also a strong interactive component. So you have a weekly lab group. So every Tuesday, sometimes it's a Wednesday morning for individuals in India time zones, but every Tuesday you'll have a lab where you'll meet with anywhere from 20 to 30 fellows. So it's a smaller group of that cohort where you'll work together to really integrate whatever you've been learning that week. We also have expert guest talks that come in every Wednesday. And when I say expert, I really mean it. They're super interesting, they're extremely diverse. They come in and give expert guest talks. They're also really receptive to questions and answers, and it's a great opportunity for networking. We also offer, for those of you looking to transition into climate, live career sessions. So those might look like um, climate career coach office hours, resume workshops, how to tailor your LinkedIn, etc. And then we offer co-working sessions and community building sessions to help you on the various assignments. There's lots of live things that you could jump into and join. And we use Zoom as our platform, just like you are today using Zoom. A common question we get is how much time do you need, to really get the benefits and engage with the fellowship? I will say this, most of our fellows have other full-time commitments. So a majority of our fellows are either caregivers full-time or they're working full-time. They're doing other things. So I really encourage you to keep an open mind if you do have a busy schedule. Lots of our fellows are juggling multiple things, and LFA, this fellowship, is kind of like their me time, right? It's time that they're devoting to themselves, to learn, and to make the world a better place. But you need to have at least 6 to 10 hours per week. When we think about the class modules, so the asynchronous learning that you'll be going through, when we think about the fact that we need you to attend that Tuesday lab live, and then the other components of the course to really engage and get the most out of it, honestly, I would say maybe a minimum of 8, but some fellows can get it done in as little as 6. So 6 to 10 hours per week. When I was a fellow, I wasn't working. I had graduated from my master's. It was in a time of transition. And so I spent 20 hours a week. There's so much extra stuff that we provide you with that you can dig into, and rabbit holes that you can go down if you want to. There's all this optional things. You could make it your full-time job, I bet. If you really wanted to. We provide so many materials that are for you to dig into if you'd like. And then speaking of those materials, you have lifetime access. And I think that's really awesome. We allow you to have lifetime access to those course modules. They're constantly updated. That way you don't lose it. That way when you need to go back and re-reference it, you can. So I mentioned our mission. We need to get 100 million people working on climate change solutions by 2030. And by working on, I truly mean that as like an all-inclusive statement. Working on doesn't necessarily mean that everyone comes into this program looking to professionally transition into climate. And I'll expand on that in a few slides. But regardless of what your goal is, broadly speaking, if you want to take action on climate, think you need to be empowered in different ways. And so we have these 3 pillars with LFA: learn, connect, and do. So we believe that you need to have the foundational climate science down, right? So within the program, we spend the first few weeks digging into the natural science. We also go deeper. We talk about the human systems that the climate crisis is existing within. So think about the economic systems, the political systems, the justice systems. And we understand human communication and mental models, how people are viewing the world, before we dig into all the amazing solutions that are available to us for the challenge ahead. So learning is one of our pillars. Our second pillar is connection. We really believe that having a strong supportive community is extremely important. And we provide, like I mentioned before, plenty of opportunities for that, whether they're live, virtual sessions via Zoom, or we have an extremely vibrant Slack community. And if you haven't heard of Slack, that's okay. Slack was new to me when I joined LFA, so there was a strong learning curve for me. But just know that that's a way for you to connect and message with fellows that have similar interests as you. And then do. And that's a little tiny word, but it means so much because that's the action component. We are Terra.do. Our website is Terra.do. It's not Terra.edu, it's Terra.do. And it's because we're really focused on action. So we do our best to support you with the pathfinding component so that you can find the doing, the action that speaks to you the most. We do that through a variety of ways. I've mentioned the expert guest speakers. We offer a mentorship program so you can these are individuals that have agreed to spend time with you, with our fellows, mentoring you on your journey. We offer career support and guidance, pathfinding, and again, access to a really amazing community. So again, these are the three pillars that I just spoke to within LFA. Again, building those climate literacy skills, having that strong community, and really importantly, building your network because you never know who you're going to meet. It's very interesting. The collaborations and connections that have come out of this cohort of these cohorts have really amazed me over the years. And then remember this third pillar of do. We want you to be empowered to take climate action. A lot of individuals come in feeling a lot of eco anxiety, not knowing what to do. And so we want you to leave feeling a sense of agency and feeling empowered, particularly to practice engaging in what we call critical, courageous, complex climate conversations. I know a lot of C's there, but that's what they really are. They're critical, they are courageous, and they are complex when you want to talk with people about climate. And so we hope you leave feeling empowered to do so. This is a roller coaster that if you join the fellowship, I bet you're going to see this one pretty often because we instructors like to show it. It shows you the holistic journey that you will embark on as a fellow. I won't necessarily dig into all of the nitty gritty details here, but I do like to point out what I think makes Terra.do special. And it truly is what I think makes it special. I think that there are other fellowships and other educational programs out there that are great offerings. They just offer something different than we offer. Oftentimes, I'm asked about, well, how do you compare to, insert another climate educator here? And honestly, I think we're complementary. I think that we do different things. So something that I think LFA does amazingly well is this middle portion here. We do everything amazingly well, but something that really stands out is this middle portion. A lot of programs ensure they spend like a week maybe on climate science, ensuring everyone kind of has the basics, and then they jump right into systemic solutions. And I spoke earlier to like climate communications and trying to understand how people are viewing the world, what mental models they're using, and all those systems that we exist within. And I think it's really important to dig into these and really understand them because all of these solutions, whether it's energy, whether it's direct, carbon capture, whether it's regenerative farming, biochar, whatever solution, mangrove preservation and whatever your chosen solution may be of interest. If you don't understand the human systems first, if you don't realize that those solutions can either live within the existing systems structure or they can butt up against the existing system structure and create transformative systems change, I don't think the solutions that you introduce can be quite as impactful. I think understanding these human systems is really important so that we can understand the frameworks, the systems, et cetera, that all of these solutions can either exist within or butt up against. And it helps you understand the context. That way you can implement sustainable solutions. So during the LFA experience, this kind of middle portion, honestly, is my very favorite part. Our current cohort we're in week 6, and we're talking all about climate communication and mental models, and that's my favorite. So again, does a wonderful job of really empowering you with a holistic picture of climate change. I mentioned that a lot of you might be feeling some eco anxiety, some grief, anger, a lot of difficult to sit with emotions. And I'm here to encourage you that at the end of the course, we ask our fellows, how are you feeling now? After you've gone through the 12 weeks. And this is not AI generated. I feel like I have to say that in everything now. This picture is literally took a screen grab. This is what a cohort said recently of how they were feeling. And we compare and contrast to how they're feeling at the beginning of the course. And look at these words: hopeful, motivated, informed, energized, excited, eager to learn more, etc. So I'm here to encourage you that you're not alone sitting in those difficult to sit with emotions. And this community and this program is truly designed for you to help you move through those. And we actually have dedicated like emotional resiliency workshops, and we have an eco psychologist as one of our instructors. So it's pretty cool. Now, what do our graduates do? They do so many things. And every single one of them, regardless of what they do, they're all climate leaders. So some of them do get jobs in climate. Some of them take action in their current workplace. Some people start their own thing. They start their own venture. They start their own company. Some people completely transform their family lives. They start composting and they move to a plant-based diet. They research and begin implementing things like, how can I get a heat pump? How can I install solar? um, they might get into policy, etc. We've had so many creatives come through the program that utilize art to influence others. We have had journalists come through. So journalists are now more knowledgeable as they're crafting and creating their stories and communicating with others. They do a variety of things. And in updating this deck, I thought, you know what, Tara, go out there and just see. Look at some of your pastels. What are they doing? And so I made this fun little slide. It's maybe not the prettiest, but I think it does a cool job at representing kind of the diversity here. So, just recently, I heard from one of my fellows. They've created a card game that's now open for pre-order, and the card game is intended to help enable you to have climate conversations with your friends. Uh, our most recent cohort that graduated, one of them shared with me they created a low waste birthday party kit that they're sharing at like their local library or resource center, so that there's less waste with children's birthday parties because there's a ton of plastic waste normally involved with that. Someone recently published a book. So Will Hackman, one of our fellows, he published a book called Radically Reframing Climate Change. Encourage you to go out and buy it. We've had a podcaster come through who's now she does a sustainability karma podcast. And then, like I mentioned, we've had people start their own ventures. This is within with climate communication and telling compelling stories. This is a person that recently came through that has now a sustainable home organization business. And then someone built their own eco house off the grid and is taking action in their community, got involved with their yoga group, and they have like a little climate action squad now that meets. So truly a diversity of things among getting a job in climate. And before I dig into how Terra.do, how LFA does help you get a job in climate, if that is indeed what you're looking for, I think I've been doing a lot of talking. And I bet you would love to hear from some other graduates from the program other than myself. So on the call today, we have Alba and Jay. And Alba, I'm going to welcome you first to just share with the group what your experience was in LFA, how you found the experience and what you're doing now. And Alba, after you, we'll hear from Jay.
Of course. Hello, everybody, and thanks, Tara, for having me today. Yes, I'm so happy I did my LFA course. I think I took the course a couple of years ago. I was in the koala cohort because that's the other cool thing. Every cohort has an animal name, so it's a plus. I think it's a nice plus. So I came into LFA, I think, from a very privileged position because I was already working in climate, but I was working in carbon capture and specifically in direct air capture. And I don't know, the more I was working and learning about the sector, the more I felt it was a bit of a climate gray area. So potentially a solution, but potentially also part of the problem. So for me, I was just curious about exploring what else was out there and to learn more about which climate solutions were really effective. And on top of that, what could I do about it? I considered myself at the time fairly well informed. I spent a lot of time reading and listening and talking about climate. So I was really looking for a course that was not just going to repeat everything I already felt like I knew, but really add on top of that. And that's how I ended up choosing Terra.do because I felt that was the one program that seemed super comprehensive and really focused not just on the science, not just on the social aspect, not just on the solutions, but on everything and on everything in a really thorough way. And I'm very, very happy about the choice because for me, that was a super, super helpful path to take. For me, the course really helped me as a compass, really, in choosing my next steps in my climate and career journey. Especially through the solutions part, I got to explore really which opportunities were out there that could really make an impact. I got time set aside for me to discuss and think with other fellows about what we thought was the best option, what we thought would align best with our values. And I think that's also an extra not to underestimate when you sign up for a program like that. I think we're all motivated to take action, but sometimes it's just really hard, or at least for me, it was really hard to find the time to sit down and really think about what I want to do with my life, what does it make sense to do, what is most meaningful to do. So just having these weekly lab sessions with fellows and these weekly sessions where I could discuss with mentors and peers was so useful, just to clear my mind and really figure out what I wanted to do next. So that was super, super helpful. And I feel like I learned a lot. Um, that's how I got, for example, hooked up on my current sector, which is energy, and in particular smart grids. I was so fascinated when I learned that, we cannot, at least in Europe, I think in the rest of the world the situation is a bit different, but where I live, we are actually installing more renewable than we can utilize, because we produce a lot of clean energy that we have no way of transporting anywhere, because we're not just investing in the grid. So for me, that felt like such a low hanging fruit that would need solving. And that's how I started researching smart grids as a sector, and, transportation and energy efficiency. And that's how I ended up in my current role as a strategy manager at a smart grid company. And I would have not ended up in this position if it had not been for Terra planting the first seeds of curiosity in my mind. Yeah, one last thing I'll say before I'll leave it to Jay is that I was also really happy about stepping a bit away from my previous vision of the climate crisis, which was really what people say a carbon tunnel vision. I was really focused on emissions as the ultimate measure that matter to measure success or failure. And I really loved how the Terra program really forced me to think about this crisis in a more systemic lens, to think about justice, to think about equity, to think about the reasons why we are emitting so much. Because I knew we're having the crisis because we burn fossil fuels and a ton of other reasons, but I never really stopped to ask myself, why are we burning so much? Why are we producing so much? Why are we consuming so much? So really having that link made between our current climate and biodiversity crisis and our economic models and our way of living and the way that we approach production and waste as a society was super, super interesting and really changed my perspective. So overall, it was a great experience. I really recommend it to anyone who has the time and possibility to go through the program. And of course, if you have any other question, I'm happy to answer them. So, Jay, for now, I'll leave it to you.
Sweet. Can everybody hear me all right? We're good. Microphone's coming in. Sweet. So, hi, I'm Jay. I am an alum of the Manatees cohort, so slightly after Alba went through. Funny enough, I actually also last month was at a conference that was primarily sponsored by Elba's company. But I am also, my other Terra hat is I am the host of Terra.do's podcast called Terra.talk. I'll drop a link in the chat if you want to listen to it. Any of the major streaming platforms, still working on YouTube, but all the other ones. So, besides that, I am an alum of the Manatees cohort, like I said, and I think Alba did a great job covering the basics of everything. And then I'll just talk about my own kind of other touches on my experience. I will say, again, this is a non-representative sample because, like Alba, I came in working in climate already. I was literally 2 weeks into my first job out of college. I work in solar, distributed energy, microgrids, and I started Terra right at the start of this. And I want to say out of my whole, I think, 150 person cohort, I was the only person who had a climate job. So it was me and then 149 people who were job searching. So I will say my experience was probably slightly different in terms of the way I was processing information, but I loved it. I really did. I was in this 7 a.m. lab group my time, and I will say if you're in Eastern time like me, I would highly recommend, if you can, getting a 7 a.m. lab time, because I believe it's the only lab group time where people are legitimately awake and within like functioning business hours on all continents. And we had in my 15-person lab group people from, I believe, every continent except Antarctica. So that was a really fun experience, and we get, split off into group projects and doing all sorts of different things. And I worked with people on every single continent. And if I was in any more like reasonable time zone, then I wouldn't have gotten that experience. So I'll advocate for the 7 a.m. lab time there, and I'm not an early bird by any stretch. Yeah, and then again, I think Alba did a great job touching on the modules as well. I will say, when I came into Terra, I was nervous looking at the syllabus that it was going to be one of these mile wide, inch deep type of things. It's not. I come from the American climate education system. Love my university, love everything about it. However, the way environmental education is taught, at least in the States, I can't speak to other countries, it does the thing where you learn a lot about what's wrong and then you stop short of learning how to fix it. And the tangible skills section and the information section of really being able to get into that nitty gritty of how systems actually work and operate isn't there. That is not a problem with Terra. Out of the 20 modules, 2 are on energy. And during those 2 modules on energy, I was learning new stuff about solar, and I work in solar. So the depth is pretty astounding. And even now, every now and then I'll find myself, because again, lifetime access, like Tara said, I'll go flip through an LFA module and go reference some old article I saw, and I can go back and keep learning and getting new things as the modules and as the course and as the world evolves. And as on top of that, I would say that each cohort is a unique experience. And the way I would illustrate that is that my cohort was going on during the 2024 presidential election. We had a special meeting that popped up, I believe, right after the election results came in. And there was a whole emotional support group that popped up because we started to realize oh, we're in the middle of this 12-week intensive on climate action, and everything we're learning might fly out the window in a few weeks. And looking at it, like a year and a half later, some of it's flown out the window, yeah, but by and large, a lot of the same fundamental principles that we've learned and that we started to implement still apply. And I feel personally a lot more, one, empowered, but 2, just knowledgeable across sectors, because I went through the Terra course and I learned stuff about food systems. I learned about water systems. I learned about politics. I learned about systems thinking, finance, all of these different things that now when I work on an energy project, I'm not just thinking, how many kilowatts can I generate, or, how many people's homes can I power at what time of day. It's also thinking about, again, every energy conference you go to is talking about data centers. Almost nobody's talking about the water use of the data centers because it's just a bunch of people who have kilowatts in their head. And there's so much more to the conversation than just energy folks. And similarly, a lot of AI companies and data center companies aren't thinking about energy bills and the way that those, prices are going up. So there is no downside, I would say, to learning the broad scope of climate systems in that requisite amount of detail, to the point where you are just going to be more conversationally, scientifically, business making, strategically literate in these very real natural systems that are going to shape private markets, governmental decisions, and probably your life going forward. So whether you're looking for a job or whether you're looking for just a wider education, you can tailor what you're doing with Terra's course material, like Tara said, to whatever you're looking for, whatever you want. So that's my spiel. I'll drop a link to the podcast if you want to listen to it. Again, it's free on all the major streaming platforms, not behind the Terra wall, which is how we did it intentionally. And we talk about how different climate professionals, different careers, got into their careers and then what their day-to-day life looks like. So if you're having trouble putting on different hats and trying to think where you might want to slot into this world, that's why we exist. And I like to think we're a good time. So check us out. I'll drop the link.
Thank you so much, Jay. Thank you, Alba, for sharing. Um, for the, like Jay mentioned, the 149 other fellows that was in his cohort, they're looking to see, how does LFA help you get a job? That's the part that I'm going to jump into next. And it's actually more simple than you think. So I'm going to get into just a couple more slides, hopefully preemptively answer some of the questions you might have. And then afterwards, we'll have some time for question and answer, whether you have questions for me, Alba, or Jay. And also, just to kind of provide another perspective, when I came in as a fellow, I did not have a job in climate. So my bachelor's is in exercise science. So I was working in the healthcare industry as well as in personal training. And then my master's, I have a master's in biology, and I researched fish. So you can truly come from anywhere, and there is a place for you. So to get a climate job, what do you need? Well, surprise, surprise. I think you need the three things, the three pillars that LFA provides for you. So you need to know what you're talking about first, right? You got to have that climate literacy under your belt. We provide that. You need to have a community or a network that you can tap into or join. We have a wonderful community waiting for you. And you need to understand kind of how your skills intersect with your passions, right? To help you find the role that's uniquely suited for you. And again, that's kind of that pathfinding or that do component. And then, of course, you need everything else that you need with any other job. You need a resume, cover letter, all that stuff. And just as a kind of peek behind the curtain, assignment 3 during the fellowship, if you do choose the I'm here for a job path, part of that assignment is typing up a cover letter and getting feedback on it. So to get a climate job, we really feel like you need what this program is providing you with, along with the career resources that we have for you. I did speak to some of these resources earlier. So we do have these live career networking sessions that we offer. Again, I spoke to the career coach office hours. I mentioned the resume workshop, the LinkedIn workshop, corporate sustainability, all sorts of live events that you can either attend live or watch the recording. And then there's also this asynchronous climate careers workbook. So just like you have your course modules for LFA, you'll have these modules for careers that if you're here for a career, you can go through that workbook on your own time, again, asynchronously. And I hope that you find that helpful. I mentioned the mentorship program. That's open to everyone, not just job seekers. And then a community of actually 8,000 alumni on Slack, over 8,000, because remember, LFA is our flagship program. It's a tongue twister. And we've had over 5,000 go through that program, but we have other short courses as well that folks have gone through that are part of our Slack community. So we did a little bit of digging a while ago, and I thought I'd just provide you with some numbers for those of you that are job seekers. So we reviewed 2,230 people that took LFA across 58 countries between 2020 and 2023. We compared this data to public data available for other similar programs that you'd find on climate. And we found that Learning for Action, LFA, is a cost-effective way to significantly increase the likelihood of landing a job. And here's how we arrived at that. So half of LFA graduates at the time of our analysis were working in full-time climate roles. And those transition rates, they vary, right? So among job seekers to be 30% after at the 6 month mark. At 6 months after graduation, apologies there, and 65% after 18 months. So just know, no one's guaranteeing you, snap your fingers and you get a job. Now, I've seen it. I've seen a fellow, one of my fellows went through, he was actually working as a server at a restaurant in New York. He attended one of like the live socials that we offer, the live virtual socials, and got plugged in with a company, a clean energy company, and now he works in clean energy sales. So it happens, right? It happens, but 65% after 18 months. So it does take some time for a lot of folks, but 65% is over 50% of the folks. So I think that's pretty cool. Also, we found that we train leaders. And again, I call all of our fellows climate leaders, but in particular, 25% of career transitions were individuals who either founded organizations or landed senior level leadership roles at larger organizations. And then we have this network effect. So 70 organizations have hired more than one Terra.do fellow. And then 7 have hired 4 or more. So, so Terra.do fellows are highly sought after in the climate job market. And I personally think more and more LFA is becoming kind of that gold standard. But again, I might have a little bit of bias there. And this is just an example of some of the many diverse climate roles that are represented globally that our fellows take on. We have a large global community, so 100,000 members. If you take all things into consideration, so all of our fellows through our programs, people that subscribe to our newsletter, people that are part of the community that follow us on LinkedIn, that like to go to, sometimes we'll have like an in-person event near you. So I'm actually going to share this link with you all right now. I'm going to click it. It's a Notion page with some different alumni stories. I'm going to share it in the chat right now. So boop, 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 boop. There you go. That way you can click it and have it as one of the millions of tabs that you probably already have open on your slide. But it can just be inspiring and fun to hear about different stories from alumni of LFA. And they also, like I said, they start their own climate organizations sometimes too. So it's a really great global community. Now, getting into the nitty gritty just a bit here, because you might be wondering, okay, this is all great. Alba said it was great. Jay says it's great. Tara says it's great. What is my week going to look like? Right? What is my week going to look like? Weeks are going to be busy, but busy with really great things. Okay. So a week in a life, we'll start with Monday. The things that are in green on this slide are required portions of the course if you want a completion certificate. Not every fellow joins LFA with the goal of wanting that completion certificate, and that's totally fine. Just know if you want that certificate to share on LinkedIn, etc., you'll need to complete the things in green. So let's start on Monday. Monday, we offer optional fun things. Oftentimes, these are socials, coffee chats. When our career sessions start up around week 4, that's when our career sessions will be. And Jay actually spoke to 7 a.m. ET being a good time for people around the globe being awake and alert. We found that 8 a.m. Pacific is also kind of a sweet spot. So you'll notice that a lot of our offerings are at 8 a.m. Pacific. Again, just because we have a global cohort and we found that's kind of the sweet spot of when folks can join. It's either morning, evening, afternoon. There's not a lot of in the middle of the night hours in that time for our fellows. But Monday is optional, fun, but really cool things. Most of them will be recorded so that you can always catch up on them later. Tuesday, like I mentioned, that's your lab group. That's not optional. We need you to attend those sessions live. You'll meet with that group for 90 minutes, so an hour and a half. Wednesday, that's also not optional, but recordings count just as much as attending live. So that's kind of the difference between Tuesday, we need you there live. That's really important. We offer multiple lab time offerings, and you can choose your preference when the time comes around to it. Wednesday, though, the recordings count just as much as attending live, but these are our expert guest talks. And again, they're either offered at 8 a.m. Pacific or 1900 Pacific time. Then Thursday, we're jumping back into optional stuff. We call these our deep dive labs. So for example, I mentioned our current cohort is in week 6. They're learning all about mental models and communications. And I happen to lead the deep dive on communications. So I'll be leading that tomorrow. Deep dives are kind of like if you're more keen to listen to like a university or collegiate level lecture and to dive deeper into the subject at hand, those are for you. And then Friday, more optional but really cool stuff. We offer what we call cohort connection sessions, where you can get together with people across the cohort, so individuals outside of that Tuesday lab group, and you can work on pathfinding, you can work on assignments, you can collaborate on ideas, etc. And then the squiggly line at the bottom just means that throughout the week, when you have time, you're going to be working on assignments. You're going to be keeping up with those course modules. You're going to be engaging with the community on Slack in whatever way you enjoy doing so. Speaking of assignments, there are 5. There's 4 individuals, so 4 solo assignments, and there's 1 team assignment. And there's a new assignment released about every 2 weeks. My favorite assignment was the team one. It was really cool connecting with people around the globe and learning about how climate change is viewed and communicated in their local context and comparing and contrasting. But these are really assignments that are designed to help you find your role, whatever that may be, within the climate space. So with that, I encourage you to join an upcoming cohort. So our next cohort starts on April 20th. Alba mentioned they are named after different species other than humans. And we haven't chosen, it's going to be V. It's going to be V. We haven't chosen the name yet, but it will be the V cohort. The application deadline is April 14th. Folks often ask, can I pay in installments? Absolutely, you can. I did. I paid in installments. Also, I'll just mention this. We try to be as generous as we can with scholarships. So our goal is not to gatekeep this fellowship. Our goal is to get as many people within this fellowship as we can. So when you apply, there will be a space for you to say, do you require financial assistance? And if so, how much? And so I just ask that you be honest and just say, hey, this is how much financial assistance I would need in order to go through the program. And again, we do our best to try and meet that need. I asked for scholarship when I went through. To be honest, I didn't get exactly what I asked for, but I got pretty darn close. So again, I was really thankful for that, and I paid in installments. On top of that, we have a 3-week no questions asked refunds. So if you for something happens in the first 3 weeks and you're like, this isn't for me, okie dokie, send us an email, let us know, get your money back, go in peace. So no problems there. So again, I encourage you to join. It starts April 20th. The next one after that won't be until July. So they're every 3 months. So the next one after that will be July 2026 if I did my math right. So I think that's the end of my deck. It is. So with the remaining time we have left, was it about 15 minutes? I'd be happy to answer any questions you had. I'm sure Alba and Jay would be happy to answer any questions as well. Yeah, what do you have? If you have a question, feel free to share it in the chat. There's also a little function on your Zoom bar that says reactions. And if you click reactions, there's a raise your hand function. So you can raise your hand and I can call on you and I'll be happy to answer your question. Paolo, what's your question?
Hey, hello everyone. Yeah, thanks for the introduction. Still trying to process all the information, so my question might be, big, philosophical, and confused, but I think so. For me, at the moment, I am kind of in the middle of a career transition. I still have a job that will end in like maybe a few months. And at the moment, I'm sort of, I have a few options, and one of them is just, go courageously towards climate jobs, focus my full attention there and do this course and try to land a job. And another one, it's sort of more available to me. Like I have some contacts that would perhaps give me a job that I could do for a time. And then I could still think of doing this later, maybe on the side and try to transition to climate jobs at a bit of a slower pace. Now, I imagine you're not going to be able to answer the question for me, but I'm curious if you have advice on, what I should consider, what I should be thinking about, whether to just go, 100% into this or just do it in a safer way. Yeah.
It's a good question. It's one millions every fellow's face. I know I have an opinion, but I'm very curious if Alba and Jay have an opinion.
I do have an opinion, and it's mostly about, well, you seem motivated to switch to climate, at least by the way you talk about your possible jobs that you could do for a time. I don't know. It could be just an impression, but for me, it's just really one question. If you have the time to take this course now, I would just do it. If after 3 weeks the Star was saying you find it's not the right time or it's not for you, you can always drop out. But I feel, a transition or the possibility of a transition is the best moment to sort of think about your life a bit and decide really where you want to go. For me, I relate too much to everything you were saying, because I typically used to go with the flow very much. If an opportunity presents, I just jump in, and I don't ask too many questions. I'm very intuitive in my way of taking decisions. But I'm really grateful that sometimes, and when I took my Terra course was one of these times, I intentionally stopped and decided to take some time to think really about what I wanted to do. And for me, I was also not fully in a transition, but thinking very seriously about a transition, and just having the possibility to, sit down a little bit and assess, where do I stand, where are my values, where is my purpose. I found that really, really helpful. And I still, didn't transition in my current role for 1 year and a half after my Terra course. But that time when I was starting to think about it and was more available with my time, is something that, yeah, allowed me to take this chance, and in the end, like, paid off very much in the longer term. So I would that's just my perspective. Of course, it's very personal. So as you were saying, Paul, I'm not going to be able to answer the question for you, but it resonated a lot. So that's why I wanted to offer my perspective.
I will say something that I think you can interpret either way and it'll be fine. My perspective might not be the best on this because I've known I was going to go into like some sort of climate job since I was like 18. But I have a couple of philosophies that might be potentially at odds. One is that just one of my kind of mottos in life is play to win, don't play to not lose. And in that sense, the sage advice would just be to like send it and go all in. But at the same time, I didn't fully follow that. And the reason being that I didn't just want to work in climate. I wanted to do good work in climate, and I wanted to be a tangible difference maker. And I think that sometimes people in the climate movement can get extremely gung-ho about, I need to do something and I need to do it now. Not all fields of study or fields of work are built equally in that sense. If you're doing something that's heavily quantitative and needs a doctoral degree, for example, no, you should not be out there blowing up the grid and rebuilding it when you're 19 and you have 1 year of undergraduate electrical engineering under your belt. But if your mission is more on the social side, more on creating art, creating activism, yeah, you can go in right away and go all in for it. And for me, because I'm on the quantitative side, I grew up a scientist. I'm still kind of a scientist. I stuck with my undergrad major was math. And I didn't do a climate major, even though I spent all of my free time and all of my elective courses doing climate related stuff. I did that on the side. I don't have a climate credential from school. I have a math credential. And that put me in a way, way better position for both now, and I actually got off a call yesterday, and a person who it was not a job interview. He was like, I think your undergrad math background is such an important thing. I might want you to come work for me after you're done with your fellowship. So it's not that I would say buy your time or kind of mortgage what you want to do for security, but I would say be strategic if you're going to, send it. Do it in a way that's going to put you in a position of leverage and put you in a position where you're doing what you want to do in the climate movement and not feeling like you're just in the first door that opened and kind of spinning your wheels. So it's in the middle, and that's really up to you and your own intuition and your own situation. But I would say don't wait to jump into this because you're chasing security, because that will always be a calculation. That climate work is generally going to be a little less secure and a little more crazy. But do buy your time if you feel like it's not the right moment for you to find something. So, and I think Tara will help you figure that out if you come down this this route. Like this is the sort of pachinko game of finding your niche, if you will.
Thanks both. Yeah, I would echo some of those same things, Paolo. I think the spot that you're in is the perfect spot for LFA to fit in. Like I feel like you've got a couple puzzle pieces that you're maybe trying to fit together, and I think that LFA, I think this fellowship would help you do that. Also, remember my slide a while ago. Let me get to it. Sorry if this is causing anybody nausea as I go backwards. Our fellows do a lot of things. So honestly, a common question that I'll get is a fellow will say, well, gosh, Tara, I'm in this fellowship. I really want to work in climate, but I kind of need a job now. And I have an offer that I know would provide for my family, provide for my needs. Um, and I'm never going to tell someone like not to take that job, especially if you're in that need. And climate leaders and climate action and climate work looks like everything on this slide and more, right? So I don't think that if you get a job in climate, amazing, and that's like professionally how you define yourself, awesome. If you take another job that's outside of climate, I still honestly believe that LFA would be extremely beneficial for you because climate activism and climate action looks so different for so many of our fellows. There's such a diversity there. So I personally think LFA would be helpful for you regardless of the way that you decide to go professionally. But again, I hope that all of this that was shared was helpful. But yeah, you're right. We can't answer for you. We can just provide our opinions. Let me check the chat here. Any other questions? Let's see, Harish, how does the program also provide reading material? And does it hold exams to mark completion? Last one, are the deep dives directly connected to the module being taught? Okay, so the program provides reading material online through course modules. So you'll have a website that you go to called app.terra.do. You will log in, and that's where you will have access to all of the learning modules. They are text-based, but we do have audio for those that would like to hear the material being spoken to you. And there are also some videos sprinkled throughout the learning modules, but you will learn that online. I call the course modules, it's like an online textbook. An online textbook is the best way I can put it. How do we hold exams? We don't hold exams. We have those 5 assignments that I spoke about earlier, and all those assignments need to be completed. It is up to your instructor's discretion on if the assignment requirements were met or not. There's no grading system per se, but your instructor will know, and the others instructors will know, and I, as course director, will know if your sincere effort was put into the course and if you were really engaged. And for your last questions regarding the deep dives, are they directly connected to the module being taught in a given week? They are directly related to the subject that we're talking about in a week. So, for example, classes release your textbook. Your textbook classes will release on Sunday, and you'll have lab the next Tuesday. It will never be expected that you go through the classes that were just released that Sunday by Tuesday. Everything's always a week delayed. So the stuff that you talk about in your Tuesday lab and the deep dive of that week will be about the courses that were released the prior Sunday. You'll always have a week wiggle room. So I hope I did that question. I hope I did that question justice. And thank you, Jay and Alba, for answering that in the chat as well. And then someone's already enrolled. Great. For me, the course then starts on the 20th. Yes, yes. So the course will start for you on the 20th. You can see recordings in your profile. That's interesting. I'll let the team know about that. But you should be getting, if you're already enrolled, you should be getting emails closer to April 20th about attending the welcome session, etc. Any other questions, comments, concerns? We've got about 3 minutes left.
I will plug real quick.
Oh, please.
This will show up on both Alba and my LinkedIn as well. We both have referral codes where
Oh, yeah.
if you come to our referral codes, we both can offer you a discount. If you end up going through the podcast also has one. So
Do either of you have access to those where you can copy and paste them in the chat right now?
yes,
I don't, unfortunately.
I have.
I will need a second, but I do.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I
here's
believe it's 20% off, right?
yes, 20% off. And here is mine coming right up. And also, this will save in your computer. So, like, if you click on it now, it has, like, I think a 6-month lifespan of, like, if you
Oh,
log back
nice.
in, your cookies will remember it. As long as you don't clear your cookies.
Nice. Thank you, Jay.
I can't access mine now. I'd sent it to Kerti for the preparation, so
Okay.
use Jay's code for now.
There's mine. And
Thank
then
you for
again, if you
sharing,
go through the
Jay.
podcast, that one also has one. I'm
Thank you.
open for more questions. I'll drop my email here.
Oh, that's
There we
really
go.
nice of you, Jay. Thank you. I see Paolo was
There we
asking
go.
that.
Yeah, I'd be also happy to. I mean, if you have any question, maybe I'll drop my LinkedIn in the chat. Feel free to reach out.
There's my email. It's Terra@Terra.do. See, I'm telling you, it was like it was made to be. I went through the program as a fellow, and then I was like, okay, Terra@Terra.do. Come on, that's got to be something. Yeah. All right. Well, again, I truly hope to see you in an upcoming cohort. Again, our next one begins April 20th. Applications are due on the 14th. I encourage you, hey, utilize that 20% off that Jay shared in the chat. Ask for a scholarship if you need one. Again, operationally, we do our best to meet those needs, and you've got that 3-week, no questions asked refund time period. And we're here to really empower you to take climate action, whatever that looks like. And honestly, that's one of the things that excites me the most about LFA is it's global and people come in for a diverse reason, a diverse goal. And those climate actions are always really, really inspiring, whatever they may be. So with that, I'll stop our recording and thank everyone for coming. And again, I hope to see you soon in a future cohort.